Okay, getting back to the album then. What's that? What's Little Piece of Heaven about?
Well, it's that and
About?
Golden Rings are kind of the two odd men out, if you like, in the album, because they're kind of love songs, in a sense. I mean, I suppose A Little Piece of Heaven is saying, in a very sort of underscored way, that there's something good out there, there's something good here. You know, a little piece of heaven in the world today. It's a good place, and there's love in it, you know, there's love in the world.
Optimism.
Optimism, yeah. It's a very optimistic album in a sense. We've always made music and done whatever we've done because we wanted to do it. We think like artists, you know, whether we are or not, whether other people think of us as that or not. We do it because we want to hear something or we want to see something.
The track on the album, Don't Set Fire, I know that's got, you know, the element of humour again within a serious topic. I mean, do you think your senses of humour have changed much over the years?
We're less sick than we used to be. We used to be very cynical and very sick with our sense of humour, but I think that's we've sort of gone through that phase. We've still got a sense of humour after all these bloody years, which is the most important thing.
What's the biggest point of conflict between the two of you now?
Biggest point of conflict in terms of...
Well, are there areas that you both skirt around that you think, oh, you know, I won't say that or do that because the other one will get upset?
No, we can say whatever we want to each other, and we frequently do. No, but it's very positive. The way we work is to offer up ideas that the other one can change or elbow or develop.
Ping pong.
Yes,
ping and his pong.
Yeah, and it's a very constructive relationship. So it's not like fighting for anything, or it's like whatever's best for the thing. It's always been like that, and you either have that sort of rapport or you don't. I mean, I remember being in I remember being in situations when we were writing, when we were in the group, where there was much more of a competition from the other guys because they didn't work the way we worked, and I remember consciously compromising that you let a certain amount of ideas in from another party because they wanted their four pennyworth, even though you weren't necessarily that happy with it. I think that a little bit more of that went on, whereas it doesn't have to happen with us because we're not worried about that side of it. You know,
yeah. What I was going to say was there is a certain amount of healthy competition between us, because if one will come up with the idea, the other will think, well, yeah, that's quite good, but you know, maybe there's something better than that, you know, and that's great. Well, it is in a sense. Perhaps it's the wrong word, but it's a healthy bouncing, trying to do better all the time. You know?
But that's for the sake of the product. It's not for the sake of it's your idea or my idea. It's just for the sake of getting the thing better. You know, in the back of your mind, it can be better than that, but how? And even if you can't think of an idea yourself, we'll often push the other person into you know, following his own thoughts through. You know, that's just like a very positive rapport.
So how much either harder or easier is it doing videos for yourselves as opposed to other artists?
It's very difficult because
it's a nightmare doing it for us.
It's very hard to be objective about yourself because you've got this self-image of yourself, which is not necessarily what you're perceived as, and you have to deal with a lot more complicated things, you know, like I have to deal with him and he has to deal with me.
You have your inherent complexes about being seen and heard, you know, which makes life that much more difficult.
The way we usually overcome it is to try and come up with an idea that's got a reasonable amount of dignity attached to it, so we don't have to throw ourselves around too much. I mean, we did that a little bit in Wedding Bells, and a little bit more in Save a Mountain for me.
That was great fun, mind you. I mean,
it was a giggle.
That was great fun. If an idea comes up, fine. But on the whole, it's hard. I mean, the motivation behind Cry, for example, was to keep us out of the video. You know, I think that's why the germ came up. Let's get everybody else to do it, and to try and hide in it in a way. And I know I'm uncomfortable doing it. Very uncomfortable being in front of the camera, unless there's something now and again that it will feel like fun to do.
I actually enjoy it.
You can't keep him off, actually.
Can't keep me off. Hello, Mother.
Your ego needs it, does it?
What?
Your ego needs it, does it?
Well, I don't know, it's like we've sort of reversed roles since we were in the band. Lol was always the front man of the band and out there, you know, and I was always sort of the back tapping away on the kit. And since we stopped doing that situation, I've done a lot more vocals and had to sort of think a little bit in those terms and had to do something when he's singing, you know. So you break through a barrier that was there.
Oh, I think Kevin's always wanted to. I think if you, because in the early days when we first met you, you wanted to be the lead singer in the group. You know, in the early days, you were out there with Club 75, whatever it was called. You wanted to be the lead singer.
I did?
Yeah.
I think
You always
I'm mistaken about that.
No, you always wanted to. Didn't you have the hairstyles and the whole thing?
No?
Yes, you did.
I don't remember that at all.
Yeah.
Oh, I always wanted to be the lead singer.
You wanted to be a singer. You told me so.
No, it wasn't me.
Yes, it was.
No, it wasn't me. No,
You
no.
did. When Michael Schneider was the singer, you wanted to be the singer. I think there's always been that thing in you where you wanted to get out there and sing and be seen as a performer. And
Well,
there's nothing wrong with that.
I'm not very surprised you said that. I don't actually remember that at all.
Oh, I remember
Not
you wanted
at
to.
all.
Well,
I remember it. I remember
with
it
the
after a
group when
certain-
you came out to do your song, you had a full production going. We always had, you know.
Oh, I know, but I was always...
Because you loved it. You liked doing that.
So how much interest have you got in producing music videos these days?
Not a lot, to be quite honest. As we were saying before, it's like we've done a hell of a lot in terms of trying new techniques and new ways of looking at things over the years, and it's been 6-7 years now. And we've done a lot, and it's like we're sort of reaching the end of our...
You see, it's very limited because music and pictures, we're interested in drama. We're actually interested, and every video we've done has been an effort to make a dramatic situation on the screen in some form or other. Pictures dramatic, you know. And when you can't use talking, dialogue, therefore, or acting, it's very limited just putting pictures and music together to sort of stretch that and to make tension and or whatever, you know, and develop things. You need the word, so you have to do movies, basically. That's the next logical step.
It's like videos, you can't really, unless you come with a really great idea, you can't really affect people. And that, to us, is partially what it's all about. You know, if there's something happening on the screen that you've done, then you don't, to go in one eye and out the other.
So even documentary is an interesting area that we've not done, which we're going to move into in some way, you know. Because it's another way of being dramatic, you know, if it's an interesting subject, and as Kev says, moving people.
Getting back to the album again, Big Bang, that track, sounds like it was recorded almost all in one take, and sounds like it was like a lot of fun.
Wasn't
Well,
it?
it's funny. It's funny.
Very fast.
We actually did, with regard to the vocal aspect of the album, the lead vocals, partially because of the nature we recorded the album, a lot of the lead vocals on the album were the rough takes, the
guides.
demos, if you like, the guides, because they weren't perfectly in tune and stuff, but they had a vibe about them and the doing of them. When you try and redo things, it's like, it doesn't always work. There was only one song we had a problem with, and that was Sweet Memory. I remember we were stuck for ages on getting like 2 or 3 lines, lyrics, you know.
Yeah.
We were hoping that wouldn't happen, but it happened once. It usually happens a lot.
For the album, it was very fluid, actually. It all just came together.
pouring on.
When we needed words came. You know, needed
Went
chords,
to the word shop.
chords
I'll
came.
have a quarter of words, please.
An interesting aspect of the writing of the album was that the more we got to know the harmonica players and the singers, after 3 or 4 weeks, you know, we wrote some more songs which were written. I'm sure that the structure of the songs and everything was definitely changed our attitude to writing because we knew we had these musicians to let them, you know, sparkle and shine a bit. So we wrote, for example, Last Page of History was written with the black guys there, started the vibe off, and then we developed the song on our own to fit in their answer parts, which we wouldn't have done had we not.
Groove.
Yeah, had we not met them and known them, you know.
Some people out there won't be familiar with what Air Force One is. So what's Air Force One?
Air Force One is the aeroplane used by the President of the United States.
How do you feel that you've actually progressed as writers? Can you look back at the things you've done and say, oh yes, I've worked on that and it's got better that way? Or...
I never actually... The only way I think we have progressed is, in a sense, is when we started writing together initially, we were probably subconsciously trying to write like people we admired. You know, and but there was a point early on in 10cc's career, because of the way we were actually writing at great speed, instinctively, that all changed, and we found that we had our own individual style of writing. I mean, you know, you compare anything from the early days to what we're doing now, and it's different. I mean, it's difficult to know whether one's progressed or not. It changes, you know, it constantly shifts the emphasis of the music.
It's just a matter of change as opposed to improvement, I think.
One thing that has very definitely changed is because when we first met, we wanted to make films, we wanted to be involved in the visual arts, but the only tools we had at our fingertips were musical instruments and voices. So the music at that stage, all the way through 10cc period, was very visual. You know, all the changes of tempo and changes of scene were like cuts in a film. But
like
now
original soundtrack.
yeah, precisely. It was, you know, it was so
make a
obvious.
film, so we did it in sound.
And now we have the tools at our disposal to make films properly, and so that element has left our music, I think, slightly.
Yeah, the music's very less visual than it was. It's more emotional, I think, you know, but it's less dependent on creating pictures, mind pictures, more atmospheres, I would think. And
Right.
but it gets easier, I tell you. See, I was very worried at the start of this album because we hadn't written. I sat at a piano, you know, and that discipline for a while. It had been a long time, and I was anxious about it, and Kevin was less anxious about it.
I was looking forward to playing drums again, you know.
And, yeah, I'm talking about the writing side, where we said we're going to write some songs first.
Yeah, I wasn't anxious about
You wasn't
it.
anxious about it. I was anxious about it until day one, actually. And then once we started doing it, and I think that's just something to do, actually, with...
Thank God day one went well, because, you know, if it
I think that's to do with getting older, to be honest. I think you find life easier, and it's easier to relax into something. And once you relax into something, it comes all by itself. And if only we'd known that when we were much younger, that things will take care of themselves.
there was nothing at stake, you see. You know, you sit down and make a record when you early on in your career, the sort of
Your future's
your
at
crusade.
stake.
You know,
Yeah,
if you're starting, but now you know you're making music for its own sake. Therefore, you know, there's nothing to worry about. It's going to come out like it's going to come out.
There's much less bullshit, you know, because you're not trying to prove anything to anybody, at least about yourself. You're just trying to do something and turn yourself on. And it's a much more relaxed way of living, generally, and it applies itself to your work as well as your lifestyle. Yeah. So all I could say is it's great to get older. It makes life easier.
So all your work seemed very sort of self-assured. You know, what affects your self-confidence?
What affects your self-confidence?
No,
Probably with that aspect of things that you were talking about before. Once you've done it and it gets out there into the dreaded marketplace, if it's not perceived or received particularly well, I mean, that has a sort of temporary effect on one's confidence, because it means that your judgment was wrong, I suppose. But that it doesn't actually last long. It's sort of, okay, next.
I mean, it's only really happened in music, you know, because touch wood, you know, it's, everything we've done in, say, videos or commercials have done well, and I think that's
strictly true. Not strictly true. I mean, there's been a few hiccups on occasions that we've thought that something was really good and other people have thought it wasn't, and that's been disappointing. But you know, it happens.
Well, I'm not really aware of that, to be honest. It's only in music that I'm aware that, you know, we put our ideas on the line and it's not a hit, or people don't like it at all, and sometimes I don't like it at all, you know. But it doesn't really affect one's confidence that much. I think because we only do things when we feel like doing them. We've stuck to our guns in that respect, except for a very few times.
Well,
when we haven't done it, that's when it's gone wrong.
Here's an instance of, I don't know if it's anything to do with lack of confidence, but we were asked to do a new video for George Harrison. And we came up with what we thought was a really good idea, and we presented it to George. And George thought it was a really good idea. And when we got home and started working into the idea, we were told how much it was going to cost. And we looked at the idea and thought,
we lost
Jesus,
confidence immediately.
it doesn't look, you know, the money's not on the screen, doesn't look like they're getting value, and we were worried about doing it. I think partially because it was someone we admire like George Harrison. We didn't want to blow it. So there was a stage where we almost backed out of doing the video.
George actually persuaded us to do it.
Yeah.
In the end. And but that was caring. We lost confidence in the sense that we cared that the person, the client, if you like, was seeing and knowing that he was getting value for money from us. There's something about that work ethic that's in us, I think. And
the old northern work ethic.
And the money was being spent to hide the effect, if you like, which looks very simple. And we were just worried that he would be disappointed. So we lost. Once you start to lose confidence, it was very interesting. But you should remember it actually. Once you start to lose confidence about one aspect of it, it's very easy to somehow think everything's going to work out bad. It's going to look naff. It's not going to work. It's going to be a nightmare to do. Blah blah. The sort of, it's like a pack of cards. It's sort of like going.
And once you've got in your mind you might not want to do it, you start to justify that reason.
Yeah. But we were persuaded by George and by various other people to, you know, no, it is good. and you know it's worth doing. And don't you worry about that side of it, boys. You shouldn't have even been told about the money, boys. It was that sort of attitude, and he was right actually. They should.
Turned out real well.
It turned out great, and we had a marvellous time.